So I'm not very good at marketing. That's why I'm so happy that Susan is here. But actually had a discussion with my son the other day because he likes to write and I like to edit. So I'm very good at critiquing pitches. Making them is hard for me, but nonetheless, I do it. So whoops, and pushing the buttons is hard too. So I just wanted to reiterate what we consider startup. It is a basically an organization still looking for, oh, and then I cannot do that because I am sharing this screen. Sorry about that. And now I'm not sharing the right screen, am I? I just messed up my screen.
Yes, you are.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Oh, you can see it? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Temporary organization looking for a repeatable and scalable business model. So this is according to Steve Blank, which hopefully you've heard of him by now. He's kind of this godfather of the business model canvas. And I just want to highlight that because all of you are in that space at different levels, just kind of, you know, posting that. This is also something that Eric likes to show, the startup curve. You know, it starts all like, oh my gosh, we have this great idea, we want to do this. And then it all goes, oh my gosh, this is really hard. And you're going through this up and down and lots of valleys of death. And then hopefully at some point it scales. And we like to operate in this area to really help you get beyond the frustrations. And then I like to add another little squiggly thing because it's not linear. It goes up and down and backwards and forwards and all around in circles sometimes. And I see Janelle and Ryan on the little screen nodding their heads violently. So thank you. Yes, so this is kind of what I see in reality. So that is why we have developed this fancy roadmap that we are putting you all through. And we are trying to get to all of the topics. We are recording it so you have really this as a reference point. And we've done a lot of the items already. And today we are doing the pitch session. So we talk about that a lot. We talk about all the pieces. So we thought, you know, looking at what we've done so far and looking where you guys are at, a lot of you or several of you have already pitched, you have experience with it. And I just want to give a little bit of a different perspective to it, to those that have pitched already and for those that are brand new. They may not know how to even get started. So that is the purpose of this session. And why am I talking about this topic? Eric had alluded to it. I see a lot of pitches in a typical year. I see over 100 pitches. And even since the pandemic, it has slowed down just a little bit. I probably have seen at least 50 or 60 pitches this year. And a lot of times I am judging them, critiquing them. I've been on judges panels for the McGuire Entrepreneurship Center. I'm helping the American Made Challenge participants hone in on their pitch and see them. I've been to a few funding pitches, idea funding. We've been doing training for the last 2 years. So there's a lot of pitching in my world. And it is one of my favorite things to do, just because not to tear anybody down, but to help them excel and be better. So when we ask about uses of the pitch, and actually, let's make this interactive. If you want to get off your microphone, or if you, and I don't know if I can see the chat when I'm in this mode, what do you think a pitch, the pitch, is used for? If you want to unmute and shout it out.
To sell your company
To sell your company?
To sell your company to potential investors.
Okay, Mark, that's great. Anybody else's guess?
To introduce your company to new audiences.
I like that, yes. One more.
Summarize your ideas for an investor.
All right, so I heard a lot about selling an investor. And yes, so typically, you know, the investor, the pitch is the investor presentation. So in my mind, it is a lot more. It is used for many things. And the investor presentation is just one of them. It's really about telling the story of your company and using that as the vehicle, as a tool, how to do it in a cohesive way. And then there's the mechanics. There's the 1-minute pitch all the way up to the 20-minute pitch. And then there's the verbal pitch and there's the written pitch. And nowadays we also have the video pitch in person. And also nowadays the virtual pitch is just taking over Zoom land. And I can make a whole nother session. Actually, I will do a whole nother session for our American Made Challenge folks. I'm talking about how to make the best out of a Zoom pitch next week. So a little visualizing, uses of the pitch, you got the presentation, you got a video there with Courtney, you got the business plan, you have the conversing it with your team to literally be on the same page. It can be the basis for your executive summary, and just all sorts of things. Another thing I want to introduce is the iceberg. We already talked about that. Susan talked about the iceberg the other day. I like the iceberg also. It's at the tip of, the thing that flows above the waterline. This is what people see. That's kind of your public image. And then below it is all the stuff your team knows. And if you're a team of one, there's still a lot of knowledge that you have that kind of is below the waterline, but you want to be very cognizant about what is above the waterline, because that is your public image and that is what people see. And then the pitch is kind of the tip of the iceberg. So also highlighting not everything needs to be in the pitch. It is literally just a glimpse, the tip of the iceberg, and knowing there's a whole bunch more below that. I still love the 10-slide presentation, and Guy Kawasaki introduced that with his The Art of the Start book. He has now The Art of the Start 2.0. If you haven't read that, highly recommend it. It is very easy to read. He's kind of a funny guy. I would love to meet him sometime. And I did sneak in a 5.A because I felt like we talk about so much for the market, and it's a little challenging to see where that fits. He kind of puts it all over the place, but I did snuck in one extra slide for that. And now I'm just going to go through slide by slide and make comments on each of them. Of course, you will have the slides available to you as a reference as well as the video. So that's what this session is all about. And I trying to be done by about 1, so we can have a really good discussion about that. So the title slide, ours is a little boring, but we're part of a larger organization called the University of Arizona, and that is what we got. So that's our logo. And I like to also highlight at some point, somewhere in your slide, please put your contact information. Sometimes that is all a person has, and you don't want to be not reachable. You want to be able to be reached by anybody to talk about anything about your business. So please make that very visual and accessible. Second slide, problem and opportunity. And there's the little iceberg. Iceberg means this is deep. Like that is something, a body of knowledge that you should have. If you're a scientist, a lot of times you have 20 years of experience under the surface of this iceberg. And that is amazing. If you're starting out new and you have an idea, you want to be accumulating all this information. And here's really where you describe what we call the pain or the gain. The pain is somebody is hurting with something. The extreme case, of course, that we are familiar with our companies is cancer kills people, right? I mean, that's pretty deep, and it's awful. And you have a solution for that. So that is not to say there's other things, but that is really the pain. When you think about a gain, a lot of times it's either better performance or it's something of entertainment. Netflix is not really curing people of anything other than boredom, but it is a big industry because people are getting pleasure out of it and they're really gaining something from it. You also want to address who is affected. Who is your customer? And we will talk a lot more about that also, but really you want to say, you know, who your segment is, like who is experiencing this pain or who will experience this gain by your solution eventually, which we'll get to. And then also in this slide, you want to convey why this is significant. You know, again, with cancer, people know people die of cancer. There's then an opportunity to specify in this slide, like what exactly part you're addressing, but also you want to convey that it is a big problem because the big problem would have then subsequently a big opportunity. If it's a mosquito bite, you just, you know, it's a little itch and you can have an argument, you know, if things are good, the economy is growing and people have extra money, they can buy that. But you really want to understand that in your own mind, where that fits. And so there's a lot of tools. So I kind of put on those slides in italics, a lot of sort of the buzzword tools. And someone is trying to come in and now, oh, there we go. Peter came out and he came back in. Oh, this is fantastic. I can just do this right in between my slides. So this is where, you know, the business model canvas can help, the lean canvas. We can talk a whole another hour about canvases. And ideally you have some validation in here. You have a problem and you want to make sure it's not just what you're thinking, it's also what customers are thinking. And this is an ongoing body of knowledge that you want to acquire, industry knowledge, insights, because things can change. What was the problem today may not be a problem tomorrow. What wasn't a problem today may be a problem tomorrow. And we've seen that, of course, with the pandemic, everybody going virtual. Zoom all of a sudden, you know, rose to the occasion and is hiring engineers left and right. So slide 3 is the value proposition. We already had a session on that one, so please refer back to it. But basically, the value proposition in its base is where your company creates value to a customer through a distinct mix of elements. So what is your product service that creates value and how does it do that? So this is very brief. We have a whole session on that. So you do want to include that in your slide deck. And then slide 4, the underlying magic. So for our technology people, you get one slide to talk about your technology, just one. And the same amount of time like any other slide that you can talk about it. So it's hard. I know it's so hard when you're, you know, this scientist with 20 years of experience and you're supposed to just say it in one slide. But again, remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, there comes an opportunity for you to talk about this a lot and extensively, but not in this 10 slide, you know, 3-minute slide deck. And it's really describing your technology, but not in tech terms. I did take it out because I realized this is going to be recorded and I send it, but I call it the Anita test. Explain your text so Anita can understand it and repeat it to someone else. You know, and I'm picking on you, Dr. Nelson. I will never understand how your technology works at its deepest level, and I don't need to. And what I care about is that you have the experience, you know how it works, and I want to know why I should care about it. Oh, it helps me detect cancer in a much less invasive way. Great, that is amazing. So and it is a tricorder on there because I am waiting for someone to do the tricorder, right? I think we're heading there. We're heading in the direction. So, you know, again, I'll never need to understand how a tricorder works. I just believe it works because Star Trek taught me so. And here, less words is better. You want to have diagrams, pictures. If you have a prototype, you know, that just really is highlighted. And Guy Kawasaki actually quotes this, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words and a prototype is worth 10,000 slides. So keep that in mind as you're trying to explain your technology. So then we come to the infamous business model. So you get one slide for that, and the official, and we can, this actually, you know, academics argue about what a business model is. This is the version that makes sense to me and is, I can grasp it. Again, the Anita test. So business model describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value in economic, social, cultural, and other contexts. It's still a little bit, you know, academic-y speak. So the way I like to say what the business model is, who pays you how, for what? So in essence, you have a company, you have a business to make money. So who pays you, how, for what? And there are different methodologies for that. For example, you can lease things, you can manufacture them, you can sell them direct, you can use distribution models. And then I highlighted the one in green, product to service, because this is the little graphic up in the corner is the Airbnb model. So if you think about it, you know, Airbnb doesn't own any properties. And yet they have, you know, they're doing better than any of the hotel chains. And it's because they have this innovative business model where they have this marketplace to really get the consumer, the guest, the vacationer, the traveler in on somebody who wants to rent their house or their room, and that's how they make money. So who pays? Well, they have really two payors. They have well, actually, I'm sorry, it's one payer. It's the host typically pays them, and they pay them for the matchmaking. So they don't really pay Airbnb for the place. They pay Airbnb for the matchmaking, and that is their business model. So if you really drill down to it, that is how it is. And of course, much easier said, especially, you know, if it's there already. Oh, why haven't I thought of that? But just to give you some ideas. So here comes in my 5A slide, market analysis. This is also, I just wanted, we've done 2 sessions actually on that. More is more in this case. It's an Iceberg item where you really want to be the expert. You want to know the market, you want to know the market, you want to know the market. You want to be the expert. And this is all those words, right? The TAM, the SAM, the SOM, who's the ideal customer, what, and competitive analysis, we'll talk a little bit more, and I need to speak faster and go faster. But it really helps you hone in on your competitive advantage, because you want to figure out, why would anybody give you to do what they're doing? And here is Dr. Dave. Go to market plan, that should be in there. How are you going to reach the customer? You know, how are you going to go from creating the cancer cure to actually having a physician, a doctor administer to the patient? There's, you know, it's not magic. There needs to be a plan. So you really need to think about how you're going to go about that. And especially because you don't have a budget like a McDonald's, you have the budget of a startup, and really thinking about how you get with that and how you do that. And this is where Susan is here. She's on the call. She's available to you. Utilize her. She is doing this. She's done this, and she has a lot of experience in that. And again, there's some words like mind share before market share, utilizing social media, beachhead, niche market, mass market, you know, those are kind of the words that fall into this category. So then slide 7, competitive market analysis, competition, again, another Iceberg topic. You want to know who's doing what. And I know sometimes I hear, well, we don't have any competition. That really worries me, because either you don't know who your competitor is, or nobody wants it. So ideally, there is some sort of competition, and it may not be direct. You know, if you're making butter and no one else makes butter, you can say, well, no one else makes butter. Well, but somebody makes margarine, and it solves, remember the problem solving, it solves the same problem. So be cognizant about that. And sometimes people are just fine doing nothing, so you want to also know that and pay attention to that. Number 8 is the management team. Who is on the team and especially why? Especially we see that with, and no gripes against it. I love the McGuire teams. And when they graduate, they want to continue. And that's when we see a lot of times where the team changes. But what I don't want to hear is, well, it's my buddy and there's 4 of us and we just work together and nobody really has a title. No, I want to know who's taking on the CEO role, who's taking on the CFO role, who is doing what, because if you all do stuff, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. So you do need to figure this out, and it takes time, because maybe you don't know, but you should you should be heading towards that, having some sort of organizational structure. And don't forget your mentors, advisors, your lawyers, but don't say you have a lawyer on the team when you're not paying them full time. You can say, it would be a separate category. We have an accountant and a lawyer that that advise us, right, or that we pay. So sometimes, a lot of times actually, we're not on your slide. Like UACI is not on your team slide. I'm like, people, come on, are we really not helping you? So please do list us.
Question about that, okay? We have all these experts, right? You have all the who do we put on there? Just UACI, or there's all of
you can do that as we're growing. You can say we're a proud incubatee at UACI.
So
We're an incubator. It does mean something to some people.
So there's a couple of reasons why, because, one, to your point, Mark, being a part of an incubator means that you now have access to additional resources, people, et cetera. Now, in some cases, some startups actually ask, one of our subject matter experts or Steve, if it's applicable, to be an actual advisor for their company as well, which is okay. And so you might, for example, list Steve and include UACI on your slide. But the other reasons why you'll do that, or why we would encourage you to do that, are twofold. One, showing that you're a part of an incubator shows that you have some skin in the game. You're paying for a service, so you're committed to this, and that you're receiving services, right? So this is all about, will I get an ROI back? And you're saying, I'm doing everything I can and accessing all the resources I can to make sure that I'm successful and I get you an ROI. And the second reason why you might want to do this is because the other thing that we have is the weight of the University of Arizona brand. When people see that you're affiliated with an incubator and they see that block A, that actually means something. So it really does help. It's like the least thing that we could do as an incubator to help you in this realm for pitching is being able to now list the block A on your pitch.
Okay. No, I guess I was just wondering how to do that. And I guess what I've done is I usually list Steve because I talk to him the most. So
yeah, you could list. I mean, so again, if you think it's strategic for you, you can list Steve as an advisor, but you are more than welcome, in addition to that, to put our logo smack right there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, just you can put the whole organization there. And 10 years ago, maybe, people didn't know what an incubator is. Nowadays they do. So it does mean something. And all the reasons that Eric just mentioned. And also on the team side, please put on there who's missing, who is going to be your next person. Because if you had a full team and you had everything in place, why are you being incubated and why are you doing all this? It is absolutely okay to admit, especially our technical founder, and technical, I also mean science founders, if you're the main scientist and that you probably will not be the CEO at some point in the near future, and the sooner the better, you can put on there, I'm leading the company right now, but I know I will need a CEO. And that also lets the audience know, there may be an opportunity. So it's absolutely okay to do that. Let me just see here. Skipping over the financial. And I did management team. I like seeing the actual people on that. So if you have those little bubbles, who is the person, what's the role, and how are they benefiting the company? Why are they on the payroll even if you don't pay them? Another one of my favorite, financial projections and key metrics. We've done a couple sessions on that. We'll do a lot more still on it. Sometimes, people think it should be 5 years. If you're brand new and you haven't sold a thing, 5 years is a big stretch. 3 years is more reasonable. And yes, the numbers are made up. Everybody makes up the numbers. You don't have a magic ball. Even if you're a Siemens and you project 3 years out, you're making it up, right? Of course, you have more history as a Siemens than as a brand new founder, but there are ways and methods to really get a decent, grounded, reasonable approach to that. And that is really worth more than anything. You need to be able to convey why you think you're going to be a $50 million company in 3 years when nobody in your industry has ever achieved that. So, then the rest of the slide needs to be just amazing. Or you can say, you don't say, but that's what you base it on, is in this industry, a typical thing in 3 years is this, and there's a range, and you kind of, figure it out. And you do want to go bottom up, you want to go, okay, and we had that exercise, I think it was last week, if I want to have 40 companies signed up by the end of this year, I need to call 10,000 people because this is what my funnel is. So this is where all those numbers come in. And I love the financials because this is really where it all comes together or falls apart. And we'll do a lot more about this. And this is also where you hear all those words, burn rate, cash flow, P&L, balance sheet, LTV, CAC, people throw it around. And especially when you talk to investors, that's what they live and breathe. Like, this is the slide they look at. This is their industry. They look at the financials. So if you're the technical founder and you don't even know what some of those numbers or words mean, we highly encourage you get familiar enough that you understand, or you have a co-founder in the financial area, business area, that understands it and can talk the language and learn it. And it's, I usually say our technical founders, when we start talking about finance and accounting, their eyes roll in the back of their heads. And I get it, because usually when you're accounting kind of a finance kind of a guy or gal, you're not so much a science and tech kind of a guy and gal and not entrepreneurial, but you have to find a bit of a middle ground and really deal with it. And we did have a founder once, and he said, well, I didn't submit the financial because it's all made up. And I was just shocked because yes, it's made up, but everybody makes it up, and you need to be able to understand it. And my little note on the bottom, just remember, revenue is all the money coming in. So we can argue all day long if a grant is revenue or not. So let's just call it, it's money coming in. You deduct the expenses, and then out comes the profit. And ideally, that's a positive number. Otherwise you have cash flow problems. And then slide 10, current status, accomplishment, timeline, use of funds. So this is kind of your bonus slide. You can go just whatever you want to else you want to highlight, but you also want to put the ask on it. So, what are you asking for if you're pitching? And this is now if you actually do a pitch, are you asking for another team member? Are you asking for beta customers? Are you asking for a piece of land somewhere? Janelle and Ryan, you're just sitting down below me. I see you. What is it that you're really trying to accomplish here? And be cautious about the asking for money. There is still, and I realize I haven't followed that as closely as I need to do. When we used to do pitch days, demo days, we could ask, put in there how much money we need. Right now, we are not, because there's a Security Exchange Commission new rule where then you're doing a public offering, and that's very different than doing a private offering. And if you ever want to go to like a Desert Angels or another angel group and you've done a public offering, then they probably don't want to even talk to you. So it's complex. So just be careful about that. And again, we'll be addressing that. And then you are allowed supplemental slides, and you can go crazy. Like if you're the scientist and you want to just write your paper, just stick stick it below the last slide, and then you can pull it up if you need to, but be very cautious. I've seen it, where the presenter tries to go back and they can't find it, and it's just awkward, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? And he's getting nervous, more and more nervous. And then it's just like, just if you can't get there, and I know I wouldn't be able to get to the right side because I do get nervous a little bit, I wouldn't do that. And then also, before you send it out to anybody, your slide deck, make sure you remove what you don't want the public to see. And then your end slide is, again, you can recap everything and then make sure you give the contact information. So I love this one as our end slide because we are usually pitching that we are open for business. We're looking for more companies or for mentors. So this is an easy way for them to get a hold of us. So I know I'm doing it. So I did want to mention, and again, this is in the slide. So we have templates. There is actually a pitch formula for the one sentence. And this is, maybe we'll do another session about that, and we'll make everybody of you to practice and come up with your one sentence. So Jeffrey Moore is the author of From Good to Great and some other books. He's wonderful and has those templates. And again, you see you have the customers in there, you have your market alternative, AKA competition in there, you have your product in there, you have the problem in there, you have the problem solving, which is the solution, you have the key product benefits, or which is your value proposition. So all of this is in there, even in one sentence, even in one sentence, you want to be able to communicate that. Couple more templates for that. Going back to use of the pitch, so not just for investors, but others. Often we hear there's no way I can say my whole business in three minutes. This is a typical pitch deck content. And yes, a lot of times 3 minutes is the limit. So this is what 3 minutes looks like in reality. 3 minutes is 450 words or about 19 sentences. And here the numbers 1 through 18 is what each sentence is allowed for. So this is what a 3-minute pitch would look like. And for the American Made Solar, we did a 4-minute pitch the other day. So that would be 580 words. And this is actually written out. Don't take any of this. This is literally just stuff I made up, just wrote out sentences to practice and speak and make sure it's about 4 minutes. I mentioned from pitch to business plan. I like the pitch because for me, it's easier to just kind of go by this template, look at each slide and kind of really think about it, what should be there, and then expand from it. Other people like to write the business plan first because they like to write a lot and then go backwards to the executive summary and the pitch. There's no right or wrong, do what works for you, but it's always the same stuff. We want to know the problem. We want to know it in one sentence, and we want to know it in a whole page. We want to know it. You want to know it in like a volume of pages. But this is what it looks like when you send it out. And for our scientists out there, it is this investigative methodology, right? Who, why, what, when, how. And that's what really is your story. You want to convey that. You want to make it exciting, just like a newspaper article. You want to say, why are you doing this? Who cares? Why is this important? Why should anybody pay attention to it? And then if you are going towards the investors, they always want to know, well, how big is the market? How can we, you and I make money in this? Some resources links, some presentations to watch, some presentation styles. Traditional, pretty much still the art of the start 10 slides. Zen is fabulous. I just can't do it because I'm not that creative. And then the Ignite show, I think, came and went, and I haven't seen that much anymore. So figure out what works for you and comfortable with, so it goes with your style.